Hello class, this is Corbin Sylvie, and this is my demonstration speech for Dr. Hall's Speech 101 class at Baltimore City Community College. And today I'm going to be walking you guys through how to make oatmeal pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. Fall is my absolute favorite time of year. I love the changing of the trees and how in such a short period of time, a tree can go from being green to being red to having no leaves at all. I love the transition between summer and winter. And with this seasonal change also comes some seasonal flavors that come back to our stores and restaurants and favorite coffee shops. And one of those seasonal flavors is pumpkin. And being that fall is my favorite time of year and that I also love pumpkin as well, I wanted to share a very special recipe with you guys. I found this recipe a few years ago and have been baking it ever since. It's become very, very popular in my family and among my friends and colleagues and people that I've made them for. And first, I kind of just want to talk about some of the benefits of pumpkin. A lot of people don't know, but pumpkin has some very valuable health benefits that are kind of, not a whole lot of people know about them. And one of those is that pumpkin is very, very low in calories. It's only 26 calories for every 100 grams of the pumpkin meat, okay? It also has no saturated fats or unhealthy cholesterol, and it's very high in dietary fiber. So even though these cookies have sugar and chocolate chips in them, they also have some hidden health benefits that can be very valuable to you and your family. The first thing I want to do is start talking about the utensils that we'll need to make these cookies. Of course, we'll need some mixing bowls. I have one right here just as an example. As you can tell, I love the color orange. So this is one of the mixing bowls we'll need. We'll actually need two of these in order to make these cookies. We'll need one for the wet ingredients and one for the dry ingredients. And we'll go into that a little bit later, okay? So we'll need these. We'll also need some type of mixing utensil. A lot of people use forks. You can use a whisk, you can use your hand, you can use a spoon, whatever works best for you, and whatever you have lying around in your house. No need to run to the store to buy any special utensils for this recipe. Whatever you have around your house is going to work just fine. Another thing that we'll need is a baking sheet or some type of cookie pan and some parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, you can actually use foil, and that's what I've used right here. So I have my baking pan and it's lined with foil, okay? Something else that we'll want to start doing at the very beginning before we even dive into the ingredients is we're going to want to preheat our oven. That way it saves us a little bit of time later on. So you can go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. That way your oven has a chance to heat up while we're actually prepping the ingredients. Okay? So we're going to start off by talking about the dry ingredients that we'll need. We're going to want to mix all the dry ingredients together at first. And those dry ingredients include 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and a half a teaspoon of salt. We're going to want to mix all of these together. Once we have these all mixed together, we can add 1 1/3 cups of oatmeal. I love the mix of the oatmeal in these cookies. It just adds a certain texture that you couldn't get without it. So we're going to want to add that oatmeal and mix everything up again in one of our mixing bowls, okay? So after we have that done, let's go ahead and lay that to the side, and we're going to want to get our wet ingredients together. We're going to want to start by mixing 1 cup of softened butter with all of our sugars. We're going to be using 1 cup of brown sugar and 1 cup of regular sugar. You can use raw sugar or bleached sugar, either way, whatever works best for you and whatever your family is most accustomed to. So we're going to take 1 cup of softened butter and our 2 cups of sugar, our brown sugar and our regular sugar, and we're going to want to mix these together really, really well until it has a fluffy texture to it. It's going to look fluffy and it's going to look really well mixed. So once we have this together, we're going to go ahead and add our 1 cup of pumpkin puree. I have my pumpkin right here. I actually made some cookies last night, so you can see my makeshift lid, my Ziploc baggie right here. So go ahead and grab your pumpkin. We're going to do 1 cup of our pumpkin puree. We're going to add it to our wet ingredients. We're also going to do 1 egg, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, And we're going to mix all of those together. Okay, so once we have that all blended together, we're going to have our two bowls. We're going to have our wet ingredients and we're going to have our dry ingredients. At this point, we can go ahead and add our dry ingredients to our wet ingredients, maybe a couple spoonfuls at a time, mixing in between. This is going to give us a better consistency and it's going to make it easier for us to scoop the dough onto the pan later. So once we've mixed our dry ingredients with our wet ingredients, we're going to make sure it's mixed really well, okay? And then we can go ahead and add our chocolate chips. The recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of chocolate chips. If you're feeling crazy, I encourage you to add a few more. I usually add 1 full cup of chocolate chips because I love chocolate. I'm quite a fan of the chocolate chips. Okay, so once you've got that all mixed together, it's time to put them on the baking tray, okay? So one way that we can do that is we can actually get 2 spoons. If you don't have a cookie scooper or if you don't want to use your hands, something that I'll do is I'll take 2 spoons and I'll scoop the dough in with one and I'll push it off with the other onto the tray, okay? You're going to want to make your dough about 1 inch in diameter and you can stick it right on the tray. So on this tray, I actually got about 20 cookies to fit. You can fit 4 this way and 5 this way, and this is just a 9 by 13 pan that you can use, okay? You're going to want to put all of your cookies on here, line them up. They're actually not going to expand very much, just a little bit, so you'll have a little bit of room for error if some of the cookies are a little too close together, okay? So you're going to put your cookies on here, and by now, your oven should be preheated to 350. Okay, so you can go ahead and stick these in your oven and set your timer for 14 minutes. The recipe calls for 14 to 16 minutes, but I like to check them a little bit early because I don't like my cookies to be overdone. If anything, I like them to be just perfect. So I usually tend to go for a little bit of the lower side. So we'll put them in for about 14 minutes, and we're going to want to cook them until they're golden brown. Okay, so this basically means that all of the egg and all of the wet ingredients that you've been added have been cooked thoroughly. If we don't cook our cookies well enough, or if we eat the dough ahead of time, we could develop some bacteria, some E. coli, and we want to avoid that at all costs. We want to wait until our cookies are golden brown in color before we pull them out of the oven. Okay, and once we pull them out of the oven, our pan is going to be really hot, so we're going to want to use some gloves or even just a towel that you've folded really well so you can grab that tray with, okay? And from there, we're going to want to take our cookies off of the pan pretty soon. Otherwise, they're going to keep baking. Because that pan is hot, the heat's going to radiate up into the cookies, and it's still going to cook them until the cookies are completely cooled. So we want to take those cookies off pretty soon and put them on a wire rack or something that will cool them very quickly. Okay, and from there, once your cookies are cooled, you can actually put them on a plate, and this is what your final product is going to look like. These are what your cookies should look like after you're complete. I actually made these yesterday, so I could show you guys for our presentation. Okay. And if you have some extra cookies after you're done baking these, this recipe actually yields 36 to 42 cookies, so you might have a few left over. If you do, something that you can do is you can place them in a sealed airtight container. I place all of mine in, again, a sealed airtight container, and they last for up to a week and a half. They stay very moist and very, very good. Okay? Well, thank you guys so much for listening to my presentation. I love that I get to share a part of this with you guys. Being that fall is my favorite time of year, it's very close and it's very near and dear to my heart. So I love that I got to share a little bit about myself with you guys. And I hope that you do bake these cookies. And when you do, I hope that the aromas and the tastes bring you guys as much joy as they have me. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.